First contact. The observation deck of Meridian Station offered the finest view of Nerissa Prime in the galaxy, but Dr. Maya Chen couldn't appreciate it. She'd spent 3 years studying the crystalline planet's unusual electromagnetic signature, and now its inhabitants were sending an envoy. To her. "They specifically requested you," Director Harlow said, reviewing the transmission for the 5th time. "Your name, your research. They've been watching us." Maya adjusted her station uniform, smoothing wrinkles that weren't there. "My xenolinguistics background hardly qualifies me for first contact protocol." "They disagree," Harlow replied, glancing at his tablet. "Arrival in 20 minutes. When the Nerissan vessel breached the atmosphere, it resembled nothing so much as a teardrop of light. It docked with impossible precision, as if the station's systems were extensions of itself." Maya stood rigid at the airlock, surrounded by security personnel who seemed more decorative than functional against such advanced technology. The airlock cycled open, releasing a gentle mist that smelled faintly of ozone and something sweeter, like jasmine after rain. Talon stepped through and Maya forgot to breathe. The Nerissan stood slightly taller than Maya, with skin that seemed to contain galaxies, shifting patterns of light beneath a translucent surface. Where humans had hair, Talon possessed delicate filaments that moved slightly, as if responding to unseen currents. But it was the eyes that arrested Maya, iridescent orbs that held depth without pupils, somehow focusing directly on her despite their alien structure. "Dr. Maya Chen," Talon said, the voice resonating not just in Maya's ears, but somewhere behind her breastbone. "Your frequencies have been harmonious to us." Maya extended her hand automatically, then froze, unsure if the gesture would translate. "Welcome to Meridian Station. I'm honored by your presence." Talon regarded her outstretched hand with curious interest, then extended slender fingers toward hers. The touch sent a cascade of warmth up Maya's arm, a tingling sensation that wasn't unpleasant, but was entirely unprecedented. For a brief moment, she experienced a flash of something that wasn't her own memory. The view of Meridian Station from space, surrounded by stars, beautiful and fragile. Maya gasped and withdrew her hand. "Did you just—" "Your thoughts are textured," Talon said, seemingly unperturbed. "Most humans project in fragments, but yours form patterns. Coherent, fascinating." Director Harlow cleared his throat. "We've prepared quarters and a briefing room for discussions about potential collaboration." But Talon's attention remained fixed on Maya. "I would prefer Dr. Chen to show me your observation facilities. Your studies of our world have been noticed." Something in the way Talon's gaze lingered made Maya's cheeks warm. She'd spent years analyzing Nerissan signals, trying to decode their meaning. Now she wondered if they'd been doing the same with hers. "Of course," she managed, gesturing toward the corridor. "This way." As they walked, Maya became acutely aware of Talon's presence beside her, not just physically, but somehow psychically, as if the space between them hummed with unspoken conversation. Occasionally their hands would nearly touch, and each time, fragments of sensation would flicker across Maya's consciousness. The cold of deep space, the warmth of stellar nurseries, emotions without human names. "You're disturbed," Talon observed as they entered the dimmed astronomy lab. "Surprised," Maya corrected, activating the holographic display of her research. "On Earth, we've always wondered if we were alone. Meeting you answers one question but raises 1,000 more." Talon's features shifted subtly, something almost like a smile. "Perhaps that is why I find your mind so compelling." "Dr. Chen, you don't fear the questions." Maya looked up from the console to find Talon studying her with an intensity that should have felt invasive but somehow didn't. Instead, it felt like recognition. "The stars look different from where you stand," Talon said softly. "I would like to see them through your eyes." And somehow, Maya knew this was just the beginning of a journey neither of them could have anticipated. Silent conversations. 3 weeks into the Nerissan diplomatic mission, Maya found herself spending more time with Talon than with her human colleagues. Their collaboration had quickly evolved beyond formal research exchanges into something the station crew watched with barely concealed curiosity. You've developed quite the rapport with our visitor, Dr. Sanjay Kapoor remarked, as they shared a rare meal in the station's communal area. The director's impressed with the progress. Maya stirred her coffee, watching the liquid form a small vortex. We're establishing a foundation for interspecies communication. It's complex. Is that what you call those midnight sessions in the observatory? Sanjay asked with a knowing smile. Communication research. Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks. The Narissans have a different perception of time. Tylan is most receptive during our night cycle. What she couldn't explain, what she barely understood herself, was how those night sessions had transformed. They would sit together beneath the dome, surrounded by stars, and gradually Maya would feel the boundaries of her consciousness soften. Tylan had been teaching her to recognize the subtle energy fields that Narissans use to communicate, showing her how to quiet her mind enough to perceive the delicate threads of thought that existed between them. That evening, Maya found Tylan waiting in their usual spot, the ambient lighting dimmed to accommodate Narissan's sensitivity to artificial illumination. As she approached, she felt the now familiar flutter of awareness, like someone gently touching the surface of her thoughts. "You're troubled tonight," Tylan observed without turning. Maya sat beside the Narissan, close enough that the faint luminescence of Tylan's skin cast soft patterns across her hands. The Science Council sent new directives. They want to accelerate our research into Narissan energy manipulation techniques. Tylan's filaments rippled slightly, a gesture Maya had come to recognize as concern. They seek our resonance technology. They call it practical applications of theoretical exchange, Maya said, the bureaucratic phrase tasting bitter. And what do you seek, Maya Chen? Tylan turned, iridescent eyes searching hers with unsettling directness. Maya hesitated, then decided on honesty. Understanding, connection. She paused, gathering courage. What happens when I feel you? Here. She touched her temple lightly. Tylan moved closer, the scent of ozone and jasmine enveloping Maya. Among my people, sharing consciousness is as natural as your breathing. With humans it has been impossible, until you. Why me? Maya whispered. Some stars resonate at compatible frequencies despite forming in distant nebulae, Tylan said, raising a hand slowly toward Maya's face. May I show you? Maya nodded, her heart racing as Tylan's fingers gently touched her cheek. The contact sent cascades of sensation through her mind, not words, but impressions. The crystalline spires of Narissa Prime bathed in the light of twin suns, the harmonious thoughts of thousands of beings flowing like music, and underneath it all, Tylan's fascination with humans, with Maya specifically, whose mind appeared to Tylan as a garden of intricate patterns, beautiful in its complexity. When the connection faded, Maya realized her eyes were wet with tears. That's how you see me? It is only a fragment of what I perceive, Tylan said softly, fingers still lightly tracing the contour of Maya's face. Your species hides behind words, building walls between minds. Yet you reach across that divide. Maya leaned into the touch, her scientific detachment long abandoned. Is this why you came? To find someone who could understand. I came as an envoy, Tylan said, the crystalline patterns beneath the skin pulsing slightly. I stayed because of you. Maya felt herself drawn forward, the space between them charged with potential. When their foreheads touched, the connection bloomed again, stronger, deeper, filling the spaces between thoughts with something that felt remarkably like desire. This is not in the diplomatic protocols, Maya murmured, a smile playing at her lips. Tylan's response came not in words, but in a wave of warmth that enveloped Maya's consciousness, carrying with it a meaning clearer than language. Some connections transcend the boundaries of worlds. Shared horizons, the emergency klaxons shattered Maya's sleep at 0347 station time. Red warning lights bathed her quarters as the station's AI delivered the news in its unnervingly calm voice. Critical failure in thermal regulation systems. All personnel to emergency stations. Maya was halfway to the door when her communication panel chimed with a direct message from Director Harlow. Chen, get to your Narissan. The diplomatic wing is in the affected sector. Fear propelled her through corridors already filling with crew members in various states of dress. She bypassed the main lift, opting for the maintenance shaft that would take her directly to the diplomatic quarters. The temperature rose noticeably with each deck she ascended. By the time she reached Talon's level, sweat plastered her hair to her forehead. The security protocols had disengaged with the emergency systems, allowing Maya to palm open Talon's door without clearance. Inside, the temperature was approaching dangerous levels for human comfort and potentially fatal for a crystalline-based life form adapted to the cooler environment of Narissa Prime. "Talon!" she called, scanning the darkened suite. She found the Narissan in the innermost chamber, filaments dulled and skin lacking its usual luminescence. Talon's eyes opened at her approach, the iridescence noticeably dimmed. "Maya Chen," Talon said, voice weaker than she'd ever heard it. "The heat disrupts our molecular cohesion. We need to get you to the escape pods," Maya said, reaching for Talon's arm. When her fingers made contact, she gasped. Talon's skin was hot to the touch, almost brittle. "The pods are not compatible with Narissan physiology," Talon said. "Your engineers confirmed this during arrival protocols." Maya's mind raced through alternatives. "The cryogenics lab. We can lower your body temperature there until the systems are repaired." Talon attempted to stand but faltered, crystalline limbs trembling with the effort. Without hesitation, Maya slid an arm around the Narissan's waist, supporting Talon's weight against her side. The contact sent shards of Talon's distress lancing through her mind, pain, disorientation, and underneath it all, concern for her safety. "I can handle a little heat," Maya said, responding to the unspoken worry as they made their slow progress toward the door. Humans are remarkably adaptable. The journey to the cryogenics lab on the lower deck became a blur of increasing heat, emergency crews passing in the opposite direction, and the steadily growing weight of Talon against her as the Narissan weakened. Twice they had to stop as Talon's consciousness seemed to flicker, the mental connection between them becoming static-filled and distant. "Stay with me," Maya pleaded the second time, cradling Talon's face between her palms. "Focus on my thoughts. Follow them back." When they finally reached the lab, Maya's lungs burned from the superheated air. She punched in her access code with trembling fingers, relief washing over her as the doors slid open to reveal the blessedly cool interior. She helped Talon to the central platform, her fingers dancing across the controls to activate the localized cooling system. As the temperature around them dropped rapidly, Maya watched the crystalline patterns beneath Talon's skin slowly rekindle, luminescence returning in gentle waves. She sank to her knees beside the platform, exhaustion claiming her now that the immediate danger had passed. "You risked structural damage," Talon said softly, reaching out to touch the angry red skin on Maya's exposed arms where the heat had burned her. "Worth it," Maya replied simply. Talon's fingers traced the outline of the burns, and Maya felt a curious sensation, cool relief spreading from the points of contact as the pain receded. She looked up in wonder to find Talon's eyes had regained their luminous quality, focused intently on her. "Among my people," Talon explained, "we can redirect energy patterns, including those of pain." "Is that what you're doing now?" Maya asked, watching in fascination as the redness began to fade from her skin. "I am giving back what you gave to me," Talon said. "On Narissa Prime, to share pain is to dissolve it. To share joy is to multiply it." Maya moved closer, drawn by something deeper than curiosity. "And what happens when you share this?" She leaned forward, hesitating just a breath away from Talon. The mental connection between them burst open with startling clarity, and Maya understood that Talon had been waiting for her to cross this final threshold of her own accord. When their lips met, it was like touching a live wire, not just physical sensation, but a complete merging of consciousness. Maya felt herself falling into Talon's perception, experiencing her own humanity through alien senses, the strange beauty of her asymmetrical features, the fascinating rhythm of her heartbeat, the complex emotions that colored her thoughts in patterns Talon found endlessly captivating. When they finally separated, the station alarms had quieted, replaced by the all-clear signal. But something fundamental had shifted between them, a barrier crossed that could never be rebuilt. "The humans have a saying," Maya whispered, her forehead resting against Talon's now cool skin. "That crisis reveals truth." "And what truth has been revealed to you, Maya Chen?" Talon asked, filaments gently brushing against her cheek. "That some distances," Maya said, taking Talon's hand and placing it over her still racing heart, "were never meant to remain uncrossed." Cosmic dissonance. The Narration delegation must return immediately. Director Harlow's words fell like stones in the conference room. Maya sat perfectly still, her face composed despite the turmoil churning beneath the surface. 6 months of unprecedented collaboration and personal connection, potentially ending without warning. "May I ask what prompted this recall?" she inquired, proud of how steady her voice remained. Harlow slid a data tablet across the table. "Earth Coalition Security intercepted communications suggesting the Narissans have been gathering intelligence on our quantum navigation systems. They're concerned about the unusual access our visitor has been granted." Maya glanced at the intelligence report, recognizing immediately how Talon's innocent questions about human space travel could be misinterpreted. "This is a misunderstanding. The Narissan interest in our navigation is philosophical, not military. Their perception of space-time differs fundamentally from ours. That's precisely what concerns the Coalition," Harlow replied. "Too different. Too unpredictable." He sighed, his expression softening slightly. "Look, Chen, everyone's noticed your closeness with the Narration. But there are larger considerations at play. The order comes directly from Earth Command." Maya felt her chest tighten. "When?" "Transport arrives tomorrow. 800. After Harlow left, Maya remained motionless, staring at the data tablet without seeing it. Her mind reached instinctively across the station, searching for the familiar resonance of Talon's consciousness, a habit formed over months of increasing mental connection. She found it immediately, a questioning pulse of concern responding to her distress. Rather than answering telepathically, Maya made her way to the Arboretum where she knew Talon spent afternoons studying Earth flora. She found the Narration seated beside the small pond, filaments shifting gently as Maya approached. "You've received the news," Talon said. Not a question, but a statement of shared knowledge. Maya sat beside Talon on the bench, close enough that their fingers nearly touched. "They've misunderstood your interest in our navigation systems." "They have understood precisely what threatens them," Talon replied, turning to face Maya fully. "Not technology, but transformation. What exists between us now was considered impossible by both our peoples. I could request reassignment," Maya suggested. "Come to Narissa Prime as a scientific attaché." Talon's expression shifted subtly, something Maya had learned to recognize as sorrow. "The collective has also expressed concern about our connection. They fear I have become too individually aligned, too separate from our shared consciousness." The implication stunned Maya into silence. "Both their worlds feared what they had become together. What does that mean for you?" she finally asked. "Upon return, I will undergo reharmonization, a process to realign my frequencies with the collective." Talon's fingers finally bridged the gap between them, intertwining with Maya's. "My individual memories may not survive intact. They would take this from you, from us." Maya's voice cracked with emotion she no longer tried to hide. Instead of answering verbally, Talon initiated a deeper connection than they had ever shared before. Maya gasped as her consciousness expanded beyond the confines of the Arboretum, beyond the station, visualizing the vast distance between Earth and Narissa Prime, not as emptiness, but as a field of potential, humming with energy patterns invisible to human senses but vivid in Narissan perception. Within this vision, she saw something else, a peculiar resonance pattern extending between herself and Talon, a connection that had grown so strong it had become visible to the Narration collective, a cord of energy that had never existed before in the history of either species. "This is why they fear us," Talon's voice echoed in her mind. "Not what we know, but what we've become." As the vision faded, Maya found tears streaming down her face. "We have until morning," she whispered. Talon brushed the tears away, the touch sending ripples of comfort through their connection. Time is a construct your species takes too literally, the narration said with unexpected gentleness. What we've created exists outside its constraints. That night, in the privacy of Maya's quarters, they abandoned all pretense of scientific collaboration. Tylen's luminescent skin cast a soft glow across the room as Maya traced the patterns flowing beneath the translucent surface. Each touch deepened their mental connection until the boundaries between them blurred, thoughts, sensations, and emotions flowing freely between human neurology and crystalline consciousness. If they take your memories, Maya whispered against Tylen's chest, where a gentle pulse of light marked the narration equivalent of a heartbeat, will anything of us remain? Talon guided Maya's hand to rest over the pulsing light. Energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed. What we've created has changed the fundamental resonance of my being. The narration's eyes held hers with fierce intensity. Even if they erase the details, the frequency of you will remain within me. As their bodies and minds intertwined through the station's artificial night, Maya memorized everything. The cool silk of Talon's skin, the cascade of shared consciousness when they touched, the way their separate rhythms had harmonized into something entirely new. If this was to be their last night together, she would carry these memories for both of them. Before the station's dawn cycle began, Maya made her decision. She would not simply surrender to the fears of Earth Command or the narration Collective. Some connections demanded more courage than compliance. Beyond stars, Maya stood at the viewport, watching the narration transport vessel dock with Meridian Station. Behind her, the research lab was eerily quiet, her colleagues giving her space on what they assumed would be a difficult day. None of them knew what she had done during the night cycle while the station slept. Director Harlow approached, his formal uniform indicating the diplomatic significance of the moment. "The farewell ceremony is prepared," he said, studying her with concern. "Are you certain you want to handle the official handover yourself? No one would question if you assigned Dr. Kapoor." "I'll do it," Maya replied, turning from the viewport with calm determination. "It's important to maintain protocol." Harlow nodded, though his expression remained doubtful. "The coalition representatives are waiting in the main hangar. Try to keep it professional." Maya smiled faintly at the implication. "Of course, Director." The hangar bay was crowded with station personnel and the newly arrived Earth Coalition delegation, stern-faced officials who watched the narration envoy with poorly disguised suspicion. Maya stood at the forefront, data tablets containing 6 months of officially sanctioned research exchange prepared for formal transfer. When Tylen entered, accompanied by 2 other narrations Maya had never met, she maintained her composure despite the immediate pulse of recognition that passed between them. The narration's appearance had changed subtly, the luminescent patterns more controlled, the expressive filaments held in rigid formality. "On behalf of Meridian Station and the Earth Coalition," Maya began, her voice clear and steady, "we thank the narration Collective for this historic period of collaboration. The knowledge exchanged will benefit both our peoples for generations to come." The formal ceremony proceeded exactly as protocol dictated. Data transfers confirmed. Diplomatic pleasantries exchanged. Promises of continued peaceful relations delivered with appropriate solemnity. Only Maya noticed how carefully Talon avoided direct physical contact during the proceedings, how the narration's usually expressive eyes remained fixed slightly above her head rather than meeting her gaze. As the ceremony concluded, the coalition representative stepped forward. "The transport will depart in 30 minutes. We thank the narration delegation for their cooperation." Maya felt a flash of panic at the abruptness. She had expected more time. Director Harlow touched her elbow gently. "You have 5 minutes for personal goodbyes. Security will remain at a respectful distance." When the officials retreated, leaving Maya and Talon in a small bubble of artificial privacy, the narration finally met her eyes directly. "They are monitoring our interaction," Talon said softly. "Both your people and mine." "I know," Maya replied, equally quiet. "Have they already begun the reharmonization process?" "It begins upon my return," Talon answered. "The preliminary conditioning has already limited my ability to establish deep connection." Maya nodded, fighting to maintain her professional demeanor. I have something for you. A traditional Earth farewell gift. She extended a small crystalline object, seemingly decorative, unremarkable enough to pass security protocols. Talon accepted it, fingers deliberately brushing against Maya's in the exchange. The brief contact sent a controlled pulse of communication between them, just enough to confirm what Maya needed to know. It's beautiful, Talon said aloud, examining the gift. What do your people call this? A keepsake, Maya replied, the double meaning clear only to them. Something to remember us by. What remained unspoken was the truth of what she had done, how she had worked through the night to encode her complete neural pattern into the crystalline matrix, using Talon's own techniques of consciousness transference. Not just memories, but her essential self, preserved in a form the narration could integrate even after reharmonization. Time to board, the coalition officer called, approaching with clear intent to escort Talon away. Maya extended her hand in the formal human gesture of farewell, maintaining the pretense of diplomatic courtesy. Safe journey. Talon clasped her hand briefly, the touch conveying a final message that no monitoring system could detect. I will find you again. As the Narasan transport disengaged from the station, Maya returned to her lab alone. Her colleagues offered sympathetic glances but knew better than to intrude on her grief. None of them questioned when she requested an extended research mission to the outer observation post, a solitary assignment monitoring distant star formations. 3 months later, as Maya sat in the isolated observation dome of Outpost Theta 9, she felt a familiar resonance brush against her consciousness, tentative at first, then stronger. She smiled, watching the approaching pinpoint of light that was no ordinary vessel. When the small Narasan craft docked with the outpost, Maya was waiting at the airlock, heart racing. The door cycled open to reveal Talon, changed, yet unmistakable. The rigid formality was gone, replaced by a luminescence that pulsed with recognition. The reharmonization failed, Talon said simply, or perhaps succeeded in unexpected ways. Your neural pattern in the crystal, it created a resonance the collective could not override. Maya stepped forward, the space between them charged with potential. And the collective? They have declared me an aberration, Talon replied, yet there was no sorrow in the declaration. Permitted to exist but separate from their consciousness. The first truly individual Narasan in 10,000 years. And Earth Command will declare me a security risk when they discover I've helped you find me, Maya said with a small smile. It seems we've become outcasts from both our worlds. Not outcasts, Talon corrected, reaching for her at last. Pioneers. As their hands touched, the connection that had been attenuated by months of separation flooded back. Stronger, deeper, transformed by absence into something more profound. Their consciousness intertwined with familiar ease. But now Maya could sense something new, a perfect resonance between them. Neither fully human nor fully Narasan, but a harmonious chord that had never existed before in the universe. What happens now? Maya asked, though in their shared consciousness, she could already glimpse the answer. Talon guided her to the viewport, where the vast sweep of the galaxy spread before them. Now we discover what becomes possible when two different kinds of stardust learn to resonate as one. Beyond the observation dome, the stars continued their ancient patterns, indifferent to boundaries and separations invented by those who studied them. And within the small outpost at the edge of charted space, two beings from distant worlds proved that even the most fundamental differences could be bridged by something as simple and as revolutionary as connection.